This is Luigi's Mansion 1, the launch title of the GameCube made by Nintendo EAD, selling over 3.3 million copies and is the 5th best-selling game on the console. This game marked the first time Luigi was the main character in a game and not Mario, and when Nintendo first announced Luigi's Mansion at the Nintendo Space World in 2000, it received a mixed reception, with fans outraged the launch title of the GameCube wasn't another Mario platformer. But fans still were left impressed by the game itself, highlighting the graphics, lighting and shadow effects, which at the time all highlighted the new power of the GameCube. Whilst this is nothing compared to what we have now, at the turn of the century it really was something, and without this game it is likely the console wouldn't have been so powerful, as it was thanks to the development team requesting dynamic lighting with crisp shadows for the game that it was possible for the GameCube to do so. And of course this was something only possible because the GameCube was still being developed at the same time that Luigi's Mansion 1 was in development. Despite critics, no one can doubt the success of the franchise, with Nintendo releasing a further 2 titles, Luigi's Mansion 2 and Luigi's Mansion 3, with a 4th heavily rumoured to release this year. Luigi's Mansion 3 has even become one of the best-selling games on the Switch, rivaling big hitters such as Zelda, Mario and Pokemon. I recently played Luigi's Mansion 1 for the first time via the Switch 2, a surprise release for Halloween 2025, but one fans were happy to see. I have played both Luigi's Mansion 2 and 3, but neither have captivated me the way that 1 did. This is no disrespect to the later titles, as they are good within their own right, and of course are much longer than the first game, but something about the first game really hits, and even now the game holds up and, in my words, has aged like fine wine. The game does an excellent job at giving Luigi his own personality, his time to shine. This mixed with the comedic elements from him getting scared and then mocked by the ghost because of this adds so much charm to Luigi's Mansion 1. In Paper Mario 64, Luigi also expresses his hatred for ghosts, which is a cool little fact that makes his entire personality in this game even more believable for the fans who have played the older Mario titles. Although, not to ruin this fact, Luigi's Mansion 1 started development on the N64 in the late 90s, either in 98 or 1999, and later moved to the GameCube, codenamed Dolphin at the time. So whilst this is a cool Easter egg, it's also Nintendo foreshadowing what's to come. The soundtrack is epic, and the little Easter eggs you can discover throughout the mansion, including Mario's own theme tune too. The game finds the perfect balance between a dark and unsettling world, but not too scary on the levels of Resident Evil that might scare a kid too much to want to continue the story. Although many fans have expressed displeasure at the fact that 2 and 3 aren't quite as dark and unsettling as the first game. This game has indirectly also created a snowball for itself, with Luigi getting his own map in Mario Kart based on the Luigi's Mansion game, and many fans finding love for the character himself that previously wasn't there, as before he was only seen as Mario's brother. Of course, at the time it was a risk for Nintendo to launch their new anticipated console with Luigi as the main face, but it's a risk that has paid off in the long term and created many moments and highlights that fans fondly remember. It's hard to argue against the numbers too, and the latest success it would bring in sales with the next 2 installments, with the second game selling 6.48 million units on the 3DS alone and just shy of 1.6 million units on the Switch. And as I've previously mentioned too, the third game held up against one of Nintendo's biggest franchises, selling over 14.5 million units. The risk itself highlights the creative genius developers once had in spades, and sadly something that has massively faded in the world of gaming in recent time. The game isn't without its flaws, with most complaints being how short the game is, but I'm a firm believer in quality over quantity, and I'd rather get to the end having played an awesome game wishing there was more than spend hours of my life feeling unsatisfied at the end of a game which I just spent hours of time playing fairly average content, but that's just me. You can of course make the game longer by doing the secret mission or collecting all of the boo ghosts and gems. However, not everyone has time for that, so I do somewhat understand the complaints about the length of the game. 25 years later though, and what I should mention is despite everything sounding rather rosy so far in this video, it did take a lot of time before this franchise would meet its success. I've already mentioned fans weren't too happy that a new Mario game wasn't the launch title of the GameCube, which did affect the original sales of Luigi's Mansion 1. And although the sales I've mentioned above all sound rather impressive, this took time and wasn't something that happened overnight, which is likely why it took Nintendo 12 years before they would release a second installment of the franchise. Of course, a lot of the critics at the time were unfair, and as I've already mentioned, this is a good little game, which many have now expressed positive reviews on, but for a lot of fans, this was them revisiting the game, or fans that started on the second installment and went back to play the first. Sadly, overly judgmental fans at the turn of the century may have harmed this game's start, but now the franchise is in an extremely strong position going into 2026, and as we've already mentioned, it's the game that many fans are predicting and calling for to have a 4th installment in this year. So this is a true story of never judging a book by its cover, and why every game deserves to be given a chance, as you never know when one might just impress you. Now that's the end of my video today. What are your thoughts on Luigi's Mansion 1? I would love to know. And if you've not played one, have you played either of the other 2 games from the franchise? What were your thoughts? I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you in the next video.